Tonight on Enough Said with KFAN Radio's Dan Barrero.
He is playing, for better or for worse, by a different set of rules.
By his own rule.
Attorney and HoldingCourtPodcast.com's Ron Rosenbaum.
Bud Grant wouldn't have tolerated any of this. Today's coaches don't say anything about it.
Remember Dante had he had his own celebration, Get Your Roll On. Do you remember that?
I do.
Did you know this, by the way? We have gold status as a bike city in America.
They have what?
Gold status.
What does that even mean?
Enough Said.
I'm a maniac, and everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. And Ben, you're a terrible surgeon. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way.
Well, first of all, I think we're going to start having to call this the Trump topic. It's apparently going to be part of our show every week, maybe all the way to the election.
It's the Trump country, Dan.
It might well be. By the way, I think Cruz is a maniac, for the record.
I'll tell you what he isn't. He's not a professional comedian.
No,
that's his idea of humor, by the way.
So let's talk about it. I mean, the big question is Trump pulls out for any number of possible reasons, and could this be the thing that actually brings him down? I came away from all this. First of all, ratings were, I think, the second lowest for the Republican debates. Secondly, I don't think it hurt him in any way, shape, or form. He aligns himself with a veterans event, which is genius,
of course,
whether he's committed to it or not. And he's the front runner. I mean, as your guy Axelrod said, this ain't exactly a bad gamble by a guy who seems to be, at least for the moment, in complete control of the race.
Well, he lands like he's a head of state, okay? All these other schmoes are there on the stage and they're doing what they're told by the moderator. He lands in a gold inlaid 757, better than the Pope. He then sees this huge crowd of people waiting for the alternative event. Then, he's got the great idea, I'll give money to the veterans, which I guarantee you, maybe he's committed to, but my guess is he's not really committed to anything. Then the best part, he lets Huckabee and Santorum as if they're serfs
and
come
they hug
in
him
and kiss the ring. And then he says, okay, now guys, go on back to the audience where you belong. This is my event. I don't know, Dan. I don't know if it's going to help or hurt him, but I don't think it's going to hurt him.
No, I don't think there's any evidence that it's going to hurt him. And if we've not learned anything so far, it's that he is playing, for better or for worse, by a different set of rules.
By his own rules.
And he has succeeded at every level. And, a lot of people said, well, then who gets hurt or helped in terms of the rest of the stage? I thought Cruz got destroyed yesterday, which I think helps Trump. Now, other people say, but wait a minute, Rubio's the guy he's got to worry about. I didn't think Rubio came off that well or effectively yesterday. So I think it was a win-win for Trump, to tell you the truth.
First of all, you have to love politicians. They play video of them saying something. They repeat it 3 times, and then politicians, that's not what I said. That guy looks like me. He's got my name. But I didn't say that. How can the American people believe any of these people in either party?
That's what we said last week. They think we're stupid. And I
think they're right. I think they're right.
Bush had a moment because Bush played off of that and said, look, I did change my mind on immigration, and so did you, Marco. It probably is too late for him. I thought he maybe looked better or handled the thing better with Trump out of the way. The problem is just because Trump wasn't there doesn't mean Trump has gone away. It just means he wasn't on that stage.
Listen to this. Trump raised $6 million last night, $1 million of his own. So let's take a listen to what he had to say, and then you guys can respond to his event.
And I didn't want to be here, I have to be honest. I wanted to be about 5 minutes away, and I've enjoyed that. All the online polls said I've done very well with that, with the debates, and I've had a kick with it. But you have to stick up for your rights. When you're treated badly, you have to stick up for your rights.
First of all, do you think he could have had a bigger American flag behind him? He's a Borscht Belt comedian, and he's conning everything. He's Shecky Green. And he says, I don't want to be here. Well, of course he wanted to be here. And then he's on the plane, by the way, during the interview. Well, Fox had begged me to come back. I'd like to do it. I just can't fit it in tonight. Maybe another time. This is a network he's dissing.
Did this have anything to do? I don't think this had anything to do with Megyn Kelly. Do you? I think he likes playing on that issue. He's like going after her. I just don't think he decided, I'm making up these rules. There's no need for me to be there. And then he invented this thing. It's all about Megyn Kelly. And then that got the whole Fox thing rolling.
No, she was convenient, but then it was even more convenient when Fox sent out that, I think, not real well-advised sort of memo,
Right.
sort of tongue-in-cheek, and that he was the perfect victim. You know, Megyn Kelly and I are fine, but, you know, I really can't allow this to happen. I'd love to be at the event, but I'd rather be at my event where I'm the king. I don't think he lost anything.
Let's take a quick look at some tweets from Enough Said viewers. Max from Minnesota says, Trump can't seem to lose. And Joel tweets, we all won by Trump skipping it, my 2 cents. Ron?
Well, first of all, Trump doesn't seem ever, he's playing by his own rules. He's rewriting the campaign book.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever followed this scenario. I mean, I have no idea if he's going to win Iowa, but I wouldn't bet a lot of money he doesn't.
No, I think he's in great position, although I don't. Can you explain the caucus system to me?
No.
Because
No.
it's
No.
inexplicable, I think, your average
Right.
rule about how you win. The group, you got to get a certain number of people who vote for the same person, and if you don't get to a certain number, then you got to vote for
Do you
somebody
think
else.
the
Explain
reporters
this to
could
me.
take 5 minutes rather than talking about
Yeah.
the horrors and tell us how it works? I think they all go into a room and they have their own private votes. I don't
Right.
really understand it,
Well,
to be
let me
honest
ask you
with you,
this.
but whatever it is, Iowa goes a long way. Where there are like 9 people who live in Iowa, but they go a long way. Well, they
Why
do.
can't we get in on that?
Okay,
Can we start
as
a movement
Dr.
to?
Ben Carson said last night, enough said. How about that? Let's move on.
By the way, he did give us a plug. Did you see that?
I saw that, yeah, and
Okay.
I think it was intentional.
Well, I know he watches.
I'm sure he
No
does.
doubt.
Minneapolis schools still have no superintendent. Interim Michael Gore withdrew his candidacy, and the board rejected Sergio Paez over allegations that his staff at former schools abused students. The Minneapolis School Board admits they faltered in this search process. Take a listen to this.
Some of our vetting, obviously, I think we're going to need to focus a little bit more or better on how we vet our candidates this time around.
So why can't we just choose a leader and move on? Do we need search firms? Ron?
Well, we need to do a little bit better. Dan, if you pay thousands of dollars to a search firm and they can't find that a school is under investigation, criminal investigation, for abusing kids while this guy is the superintendent, they might not be the search firm for you. Then they're 10 months into the process, and that they tell the public, but we're right on track. We're exactly where we want to be. In another 37 years, we'll find a superintendent.
this-
It's ridiculous.
And not only is it ridiculous, it's, I think, part of a larger pattern that we should
You think?
explore here. Because I thought maybe it's a good Twitter question for next week. Which job is going to be filled first? The job you just mentioned, school superintendent, or the University of Minnesota athletics director?
My other
It's
favorite
the same
institution.
Wagnerian opera that also they are also seemingly prisoners to endless bureaucracy, not just search and screen committees, but caucuses that report to the committee. So we're sitting here once again without an AD. We have no idea when it's going to happen, and we've got, I think, a history here where I hope we don't go down this road where, because the last guy, Norwood Teague, maybe he could.
That was
apply for
your
the
guy, by
superintendent.
the way.
He was my guy.
I
It didn't
know.
work out.
You think?
I'll grant you that. They had to get rid of him. But because he wasn't one of us, the people who believe everybody we hire has to be one of us immediately pounced on him and said, see, we need a gopher. We need a guy who knows this market. Teague was the wrong guy, but not the wrong idea. Just go and get somebody. Don't worry about whether somebody knows Minnesota. Get somebody who understands about leading people, leadership, and what the university needs, what a school superintendent should do as well. And you're one of us, I'm not, but I don't think we got a real good track record when it comes to making hard decisions where we're not as worried about the constituencies who might or might not be offended, and we go about the business of instead, I got to please this group and this group and this group. And in the end, what do we end up with? This nonsense in both cases where neither job is filled.
Well, why is it that cockamamie states like Wisconsin and Iowa seem to be able to do this? We spend endless hours and we have committee meetings and we end up with Norwood Teague, who the search committee also ended up missing huge problems with him before
didn't know
he
about
came.
his texting.
I went to the University of Minnesota. I love the institution, but they absolutely compete with the Minneapolis school, the whole
You know what we
Minneapolis school board, the whole deal for getting everything screwed up.
We need Donna Shalala. She went to the
I
University
agree.
of Wisconsin. Then
I
she
agree.
made the right AD decision.
Right.
Then he hired Barry
Barry
Alvarez.
Alvarez.
Coming up on Enough Said.
What I can't stand are the Cordero Pattersons when they're down 30 points and he scores a touchdown and he celebrates. That I think is legitimate to criticize, but I think in fairness,
I've said it since day one. You know, I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they haven't seen nothing that they can compare me to.
Oh my God, this is going to be a hard couple of weeks, Mr. Rosenbaum, because we're going to hear on the basis of that soundbite from the enlightened sports sociologists who are going to tell you and me and everybody else that if we do not worship Cam Newton, something's wrong with us, and it's probably racially based. I'm having a hard time with Cam Newton as victim here. This last summer, he signed a contract for over $100 million. I think $70 million of that guaranteed, which is a pretty good indication of what his team felt about him. And the notion that on the basis of one outstanding season, I mean, he's an MVP this year, after 3 okay seasons, a season last year in which the team didn't even finish with a winning record but got in the playoffs because they played in a bad division, indicates that we're not appreciating him enough and we're somehow resentful of him. Sorry, are there Klansmen out there who are going to hate any black quarterback who ascends to the place he already is? Well, we know that. You and I know that. But the notion that automatically he's facing this sort of uphill battle, I just don't buy it. I don't see the evidence of it.
Let me take you on that a little bit. Sometimes I think he gets criticized about the fact that he celebrates when he does stuff that's good. What I can't stand are the Cordero Pattersons when they're down 30 points and he scores a touchdown and he celebrates. That I think is legitimate to criticize. But I think in fairness, we do judge quarterbacks differently. Many people judge quarterbacks differently based on race, to the extent that we like stoic players like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, and I just think that Cam Newton's a different breed. I think we can respect that.
I think it's more generational than it is racial. I mean, I'll give you 2 names. Richard Dent was the defensive end on the '85 Bears who were being celebrated at the anniversary.
Right.
He's destroyed Cam. He basically said, if I had to play against Cam Newton, I'd kill him. Not going to defend that, but the point is, and Charles Barkley said, look, if you're going to be as out there as he is, I would want to take him out too. I think Charles Barkley is African-American. I'm pretty sure Richard Dent is too. So I think a lot of this may end up being more generational. And I think, look, up until he was doing that same stuff last year. His point is he's been consistent with it. But you know and I know that if you are not even finishing 500 and you're doing the Superman stuff, some people on the issue of taste, whether it's a black guy or a white guy doing it, are going to go, please, let's get somewhere first. Now he's getting somewhere, but the problem is he celebrates on first downs as if the game should be stopped for him. You can like that or not like that, but I don't think it makes you a racist if you don't.
I'm not saying it makes you a racist, but I think he's a young guy who really is a happy ball player who enjoys what he's doing.
And that's good.
But I'm with you on one thing. It is generational. Baseball players 30 years ago, they would have thrown at their heads if they did this kind of celebration.
True.
But now it's part of the game. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's not racial,
okay,
it's
on
generational.
that note, you guys, enough said. Let's move on. Let's talk about swiping out roadways for bike trails. There's a proposed 3.5-mile greenway in North Minneapolis that would start in North Commons Park. Some say green space improves the neighborhood, but others don't want to lose their on-street parking. How much of this is social engineering telling others how they should live, Dan?
Boy, that's a loaded question for me.
The answer is
I'm
all
very
of
tight
it.
with the bicycle
The answer is
coalition,
all of
as
it.
you know. I'd say 99%.
Okay.
I'll give you the 1%.
You're kind of liberal on that.
Here's the thing that bugs me. Here's why I'm paranoid about a lot of these moves that we make. And I don't hate bikes. In fact, I think eventually, if this show lasts a while, we should do a live show on a bicycle built for 2.
Do you have a bike, by the way?
I do.
Really?
Yeah, I have one. Yeah, but it's a little rusty.
I can't imagine you on a
haven't used
bike.
it in years.
Yeah.
It's a very healthy enterprise, okay?
I've heard that.
But I sense now that we're in this mode where, did you know this, by the way? We have gold status as a bike city in America.
Have what?
Gold status.
What does that even mean?
Means we're a good bike city, but we want platinum status. To get platinum
so we're not
status,
at the top.
Correct.
Well, part of that is we're Minnesota. We're never at the top.
Well, that could
We
be.
don't want to be at the top. We want to be just a little bit below.
No, but we want platinum. And this is, see, to me, the decisions on this, on whether the speed limit should be cut from 30 to 25, should be, is it a good idea, as opposed to, well, that's the way we can get to platinum status. I don't want to do things to get some stupid award from some organization that I don't care about. I want to do it and say, well, is it logical? And in the North Minneapolis case, there's been a little bit of pushback of, now, do we really want to spend our money on this? Maybe this is being shoved down our throats. Maybe because a lot of other people think this is healthy and want to feel good about themselves because they want to cycle 12 months out of the year in a state in which winter lasts 9 months, that everybody else wants it too. Do we all want it?
Well,
maybe we don't.
If there's one thing we've seen from the citizens of North Minneapolis, it's strong push towards becoming platinum. This is really what's guided the community of North Minneapolis. The problem, of course, if you want to talk about social engineering, this is it definitionally. How many people have you seen from North Minneapolis that are demanding that we have bike paths in North Minneapolis? People have a hard enough keeping their houses up and getting a job, let alone platinum status in terms of biking.
The point is there's a lot of components to this. And if we really want a platinum status, you know what we do? Minneapolis would we move to San Diego. Because then it makes sense to be platinum and to have endless bike lanes.
We have winter here,
people
right?
can actually enjoy the whole concept of cycling 12 months out of the year. Even though I know we've got some hardy people with their fat bikes.
Well, when I was growing up, nobody was driving a bike in the winter.
You're a big bike guy, aren't you?
Coming up on Enough Said.
As you know the old saying, when in Rome, do as the Iranians, right? That is
goes
clearly
back
what
many
we've known it since we were... Well, you know, Dan, I don't always agree with Black Lives Matter, but they do have a point about not having a grand jury in police-involved shootings. The state of California basically is outlawed. They're requiring county attorneys, or whatever they call them out there, to not take those cases to the grand jury, but to charge them themselves. In Minnesota, a county attorney only has to bring a case to a grand jury if it's a murder one. So the question is, why do all these county attorneys on police-involved shootings take the case to the grand jury?
Do you want me to answer that?
Well, I think you know the answer. The answer is to pass the buck.
There might be a little cowardice there.
Well, I mean, they don't need to do it. Either there's probable cause to charge a crime or there isn't. But every time they take it to a grand jury, the grand jury doesn't indict, and the county attorney comes back and says, well, this was the will of the community. My attitude is, if that's what you're going to do it for all cases.
Well, but
why just these cases?
You are, though, you're Mr. Constitution. I mean, if anything I've known about you over the years, you believe in that document, correct?
I do, yeah.
Well, isn't the grand jury built into that document for any good reasons at all? Should we just sort of dismiss it and throw it aside suddenly because of one particular issue?
Well,
wasn't it there for a good reason?
Let's be clear. The Constitution applies here to federal courts.
Okay.
If you're going to be charged with a crime, it has to be by a grand jury if it's a federal crime. County attorneys have the absolute right to charge every single crime short of murder one. And by the way, these are not usually murder one cases. The only cases they consistently take to the grand jury are police-involved shootings. And I think Black Lives Matter say that's just a way of not making a hard decision, and I think they're right.
Well, in some cases, I'm sure they are right, and that you're right, except that you've given me the old cliche, you can indict a ham sandwich. Isn't that the easiest way to try to get a case generally to go forward? Shouldn't that be in the interest of those who are concerned here?
But doesn't that tell you something if they don't indict? What it tells you is the county attorney is not pushing for an indictment. Because the old thing, you can indict a ham sandwich. Remember, the defense attorney is not in the grand jury. It's only the prosecutor. He presents the evidence.
Semi-rigged, really.
Well, it's not semi-rigged.
It is rigged, yeah.
It's completely rigged. But I think they have a point. Either you take all cases to the grand jury, or you only take the one murder one that you're required.
But is this about that, or is this about people being happy only if they get a certain verdict as well?
Well, you know that's the case.
Yeah.
In other words, I don't care if you get charged, as long as, yes, of course it's whose ox is being gored. But you have to admit, if you're going to take cases, then take all of them.
I'm with you on that.
Otherwise, why
take it on.
Only police cases? And a lot of people feel, and I'm one of them, that they're simply passing the buck and not. Remember, these are elected officials. You know about elected officials. They're all politicians. They say they're not, but they are.
Anonymity doesn't have a place?
Well,
in terms of maybe making people having a better chance to get to the truth or not?
Well, then do it for every case.
Right.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it right
It's
there.
really the way to do it.
Enough said, you guys. Let's move on to the lightning round. This is always fun. First up, a Rogers girls basketball team kicked out of the league for allegedly being too good. Did the league go too far, Dan?
No, they didn't go too far, and these basketball players are not victims. It's basically a glorified rec league that had certain rules about not having all-star teams. We're here, in this case, just to participate. No big deal, and it got national because of that headline that Lori just read. Which is like, their kids don't feel very good because they're getting beaten up by this other team.
Right.
This is nowhere near.
But once it goes
the
viral
significant
on
charge.
social media,
Doesn't
it's over.
stop.
The truth is gone.
Okay, next up.
Fine print's gone.
Stephen Avery's attorney, Dean Strang, was in town this week, as you know, Ron, because you hosted him. He went from an attorney to some calling him a heartthrob. You're calling him Mick Jagger. He didn't even get an advance copy of the Netflix documentary, did he, Ron?
Yeah, it's the funniest thing. I mean, he's a nice guy, but he looks like an attorney, kind of nondescript like the rest of us. He certainly doesn't look like a sex symbol. He doesn't even know what to make of it, Dan. He's going places and people are treating him like he's Mick Jagger. You were there that night. Women literally melted when he walked in the room.
They're throwing underwear at him, for God's sake. God, I thought that was a little much.
Well, I don't know. One of them was with you, wasn't she?
That might very well
Yikes.
be.
Okay, let's keep going here. Minnesota gets a 2-year reprieve on Real ID. That's the federal law that requires more stringent IDs to fly. Of course, we all want to be safe from terror, but then we also don't want to divulge all of our personal information. But we can't have the best of both worlds, can we, Dan?
Well, this is more your gripe than mine, to tell you the truth. But you've kind of conditioned me that I'm supposed to be skeptical of any steps that mean there's another way for the government to get my information. The problem is in 2016.
The problem is they have all your information,
and
Dan.
so we're back to.
They know you're here right now.
So you're saying we should
and
trust
they don't
them?
care.
That we can trust them with everything.
I say, listen, they've got everything. If you file an income tax return, you get a driver's license.
Yeah.
They already know, and if you get a passport,
Well,
they even know more.
and there is a security component here. I don't think it solves every security issue, but it indeed could help.
What's the problem with having an ID that proves you are who you are? We have a no-fly list. I'd like to at least know
Will
that
you do
they
it for
know.
voter ID too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, liberal
that's a
icon
different
Michael
issue.
Moore. Michael Moore goes on Fox News' Megyn Kelly's show and basically acts like a teenager in love. Take a listen.
You're okay, aren't you? You're not feeling bad right now. You're
I'm feeling very good. Yeah,
okay, because
fine.
I was thinking I was going to have to hey, maybe I'll take you out to dinner afterwards. And,
Would you stop? Would you talk about?
We can talk. You can emote.
Thoughts, Dan?
Well, my only thought was the only surprise is Michael Moore didn't throw his underwear at her. I mean, he said
you're kind of lefty firebrand. He was just spooning with her.
Well, part of what he was trying to say is that she's the one person who's been able to back up Trump against a corner and effectively do that, which of course none of the candidates have been able to do. But it was rather frightening to watch.
I watched because I thought it'd be a fun confrontation.
back
I
and
thought
forth.
he'd take her on the politics. He just mooned at her. Now listen, she is kind of a good-looking woman.
And lastly, some nude statues in Rome covered up ahead of the Iranian president's visit. Some officials did it so they wouldn't offend Hassan Rouhani. What about the old saying, when in Rome?
Well, as you know the old saying, when in Rome, do as the Iranians, right? That is
goes back
clearly what
many centuries.
we've known it since we were growing up.
Yeah.
Honest to God, let the Iranians do what the Iranians do, but don't cover up. You have to cover up the statue of David in Florence, for God's sakes. I'm sorry. We don't have to serve them there and here as well.
Well, especially as I think you reminded me, when women go there, they are wearing.
They do.
Yeah, in respect for that particular culture.
Which is fine.
Which makes some sense.
I got no problem with that.
But yeah, you're in Rome. You got
to
Rome is
cover up
about
the great
statues.
work of our.
Been insulted. He might have enjoyed seeing those
I
statues.
think he might have,
Who's
as
to
a
say?
matter of
Maybe
fact.
that big of a deal.
I don't know, but all I can tell you.